Hey guys, welcome back. If you've been following along, you'll know that in the last video we installed this torque box on this 1971 Camaro, and in this video we're going to go ahead and finish this repair in this area by installing the frame rail section that we made in one of the prior videos, and then also repairing that section of frame rail right there. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so before we can install this piece, I need to prep it, and by that I mean I'm going to put all of the holes in for the plug welds, and I'm going to epoxy prime this, and then we also have some holes we have to add for the bolts that go into the side of the torque box, so we'll go ahead and do that. I don't know where all the original spot welds are, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is just use the piece that I did not remove yet, and we'll just get them close. So you can see there's about 2 here, we have about 2 here, and 2 on this side. I don't know about in the middle here, but definitely 1 over here somewhere. And on the bottom side, it's going to be hard to tell because it's rusted through and everything. So we're just going to put them wherever and go from there. You know, we'll just make sure we have enough so that the frame rail is nice and attached. And then of course we need plug welds along this area here where the flange meets up with the torque box. So we'll go ahead and just make sure we have enough plug welds to make sure that the frame rail section is secure. So you can see here that there are 2 holes that we need to drill through the frame rail section to allow access to the threads for the bolts. So let's go ahead and do that now, and then after that we will move on to drilling out all of the plug welds. Alright guys, so it turns out the holes do not exist in the reproduction piece. So I'm looking up at the passenger torque box where these holes should exist, and they don't. Here's another look at the driver's side where they do exist. And if we look at the replacement panel for the driver's side, you can see that those holes do not exist here. So no big deal, we're just going to forget about them for now, and if we do need them for anything, then we'll just drill and tap as necessary. So we're going to move on and drill the holes for the plug welds. All right guys, so we got the plug welds all drilled out. So one last test fit here before we epoxy everything. So the other thing that you might have seen is that I cut the tabs off that I had on here for fitting this piece up. I debated on leaving them there and just welding it to make maybe a stronger weld and less burn through, but I'm worried that moisture and water and stuff would collect in there, and I don't want any future rust issues there. So let's go ahead and do it this way without the tabs. All right, so all of the plug welds hit metal, so we're good to go. We don't have to fill any holes. Now we're gonna go ahead and take this off and epoxy prime it. I've already sanded it with 80 grit, pretty good. So now we're just gonna go ahead and hit this with wax and grease remover to remove any cutting oil that's left over and any other contaminants. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we got all these areas cleaned up with wax and grease remover. We're just going to touch those areas up so they don't rust. And then we got this piece ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and mix up some Eastwood epoxy primer. So this time around, I'm going to try out this smaller touch-up gun, see how it does. I don't know what size tip that is, so it may not work that well, but we're going to try it. I've never used it. It came in the pack with the other Harbor Freight gun that I got that I normally use. So let's go ahead and mix up some epoxy primer and give this a try. All right guys, so while we are waiting for the frame rail section to dry, we're gonna go ahead and repair this piece. So this is the worst of it, and it's not really that bad, but there's a pinhole here, so I know it's getting thin. So I wanna go ahead and just replace up to here with a new piece of 18 gauge, and then we can go ahead and put everything together and call this side done. So let's go ahead and create a template for this, and then we'll transfer it to sheet metal, and then we'll cut this out. All right, guys, so we got our piece clamped in. We got it bent pretty close. So now we're gonna go ahead and just take a scribe the line, and then we'll cut this out. All right, guys, out with the old, in with the new. So, like I said, it probably would have been okay, but it's thin. So this is where all the junk sits, you know, when the car's out in the weather and you get salt and water and everything up there. So it gets better as it goes up, the frame rail on this car. So this will be good. We'll go ahead and get this on. I'm going to throw just a coat of primer on it. We're going to come back and spray all this stuff with internal frame coating at some point. All right, so I wire brushed the inside a little bit. It's not too bad. The walls they're pretty smooth. It just gets rough when you get down here, and then it gets better the further up the frame rail you go. So just a tip, it might have been better to do this after you get the frame rail piece in, because this came apart a little bit. That's why it's important to make sure you get the right size patch ahead of time, so that you don't end up making stuff like this wider than it should be. So we're good to go though. We'll go ahead and get this piece tacked in. All right, guys, we got this piece welded in, so we're ready to grind this down, and once we do that, we'll be ready to install this piece. All right, guys, so we got the frame rail fixed up here. We got the welds ground down, and then I put this piece up, and I just took a pick and I traced around all the plug welds. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove this piece and grind down those areas and spray some weld through primer. All right, guys, so we got this piece plug welded in for the most part. We got all the plug welds on this side, on the front side, and we just got to do the bottom side. So I'm going to have to push this flange in a little bit. And then we got this stuff all tack welded in place all the way around. I have a little too much curve here, so I'm just going to have to make a relief cut here and then weld that shut and then weld up that cut. So that's not a big deal. Same thing on this side. I just have this piece a little too wide, that's all. All right, so let's keep going. All right, guys, we got this all welded in. We got the welds ground down, and it is pretty good. I'm pretty happy. Oops. Don't leave your cutoff wheels on the ground. Anyway, so I'm happy with the way it turned out. It's not perfect. We got some low spots in here. This is where I tried to push this down to plug weld to the torque box. I don't know if they had plug welds here on the other one. I don't know if I'll do it on the other side, just because I had to push it down so far to meet the angle of the torque box. It's either that or I was a little too wide in here. But anyway, it's all good. It's on there. No more rust in this area, which is awesome. So what I'm going to do next is just go ahead and hit some of these areas with some fiberglass filler just to smooth it out a little better. Just look at the underside, a little dark, but it turned out pretty good too. So guys, overall, I'm very happy with this. Let's go ahead and put the fiberglass filler on this. All right, guys, so we got filler in place. Again, wasn't perfect. Just threw a skim coat of fiberglass filler on there. And then any low spots that came back with regular filler. So should paint up pretty nice. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go ahead and spray this frame rail with epoxy primer all the way back to where we ended with the seat with epoxy primer right back here. So we're going to do all that, and then we're going to move on to the next spot. All right, guys, final look right here. Turned out really nice. We got the frame rail epoxy primed all the way back to where the seat pan ends. So looking really good. Definitely happy with it. If you forget what it used to look like under there, take a look there.
Yeah, I'm working ahead here.
So anyway, if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're getting value out of my content and you want to see more, consider subscribing. And if you do subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you get alerts whenever we post new videos. We'll see you in the next one.